Now let's get into the social meaning of race and ethnicity. Biologically, race doesn't mean anything. A person's race doesn't determine your level of education, your ability to succeed, naturally so or biologically so. Race doesn't determine anything. But if we look at the meaning of race socially, it means everything. And thus, race is a social construction, how we categorize people according to their physical makeup. So let's look at the first term. What is race? It is a category of men and women who share biologically transmitted traits, because people who have similar traits, skin color, hair texture, eye shape, whatever, procreate with someone that looks like them physically. They reproduce people with the same genetic makeup that members of a society deem or consider socially significant or important. It is usually indicated by physical features and is based on superficial characteristics. So we think we know someone's race by how they look on the outside. So their skin color, hair texture, eye shape, so forth and so on, we kind of lump people together. But it's superficial, because if you pull back the skin, you strip us all down to skeletons, which would look pretty creepy. But if you stripped us all down to skeletons, right? The only people that would know our race or could kind of guess what our race is would be a physical anthropologist who might look at the shape of the skull and say this person appears to be Negroid or Mongoloid or Caucasoid. Speaking of which, at one time in history, we had three categories of race: Mongoloid, Negroid, Caucasoid. So depending on what group you came from, it was easy to fit you in certain categories. But then there are some people that don't fit so neatly, like, for instance, Native Americans, right? The people we call Indian, First Nation Native American people. Would they be Caucasoid? Don't make that mistake. Would they be Negroid? No. Would they be Mongoloid? That would probably be the better category, but you'd have to trace their origin back 10,000 years across the Bering Strait before they migrated to the North American continent. So this is why there are a lot of Native American people who have Asiatic or Asian-looking eye shapes, okay? Because they came from Asia across the Bering Strait to the North American continent, but that was more than 10,000 years ago. So we've expanded the categories of race. So the census is going on right now, right? So if you got the 2020 census, I think there was about 10 or 11 categories of race, and then you got to write in what your race was if it wasn't listed. So we've expanded it. But if you go to certain countries, the way they categorize race might be different than how we do it here in the United States. So again, race is a social construction. Race is only skin deep. Again, you pull back the surface. I'm doing this like I'm getting dressed. But if you pull back the skin, beneath all of that is someone that belongs to the same race, the human race. Here, when I'm in class, I'll do this. I'll point out a student. And I'll say, if you take my body and dissect my chest, and you dissect this white student's chest, our heart is in the same place. Our brain is in the same place in our skull. Our arteries and our veins all look the same. The spleen, the stomach, the kidneys, the lungs, it's all in the same place. You dissect the human body, all those organs are in the same exact place. Guess why? We're all human beings. We come from the same race, the human race. Okay, there is no pure race, despite the fact that people want to believe someone's purely white, purely black, purely this or that. I think this My DNA and MyGenetics.com, all these different DNA type services now that can trace back your origin, people are shocked by what's in their racial background. So I think that, you'd be surprised to know that you're not purely anything because of miscegenation, which means race mixing, either voluntarily or by force. Many of us have many different groups in our biological origin.